Hi, Ginger. Good morning, everybody. I started just a minute or so early today, since I'm usually running a little bit late. So I figured I'd start early because it's supposed to be a beautiful day here. So I'm going to pick up my niece from school, and we're going to the playground today, her and my son. Good morning. Hi, Karen. Hi, Danette. Thanks, guys, for joining. Once a few more of you get on here, I'm just going to go over a couple of quick things with you. But while you're waiting, I'm going to show you this really cool paper pumpkin card I made. This is the newest paper pumpkin, the February kit, which is called Wildflower Wishes. And this is a really pretty kit, but I did a little bit of it out of the box card. I kind of tore the paper in half and made, just ripped it down the middle. I ripped the bottom off, and then I ripped it again and just separated the two pieces. So it's just, this is a little bit different of a version of the card. This is the only one I finished thus far. But hi, Kimberly. Thanks, guys, for joining. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Gina. How you guys doing today? How's the weather where you are? It was actually 70-something, 73 here yesterday. It was so beautiful, and on Saturday we had 2 inches of snow. Crazy. And I know if Tammy is watching out in Washington State, or oh my goodness, I forgot. Lost the name. Oh heavens, isn't that terrible? Have another downline in Washington State. Good gracious. I know they're getting like a major snowstorm. Like a major snowstorm. Good morning, Gina. Hey, Cheryl. So I just want to share this with you. This was a really fun card to make. I do have 2 of these kits, I believe, for sale. If you guys want one, it is $19.95, and it's about $6.55 shipping and handling to send it to you. So just send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. I can get you one. Enjoy my day. I know we did have some beautiful days. It's going to be a chilly day. I gotcha. I understand. I'm sure we'll be having a snowstorm next week. That's kind of the way it goes here. And it's cold in California. Well, thanks, Deanna. We appreciate you sharing your California weather with us, because I think that's what we have right about now. All right, so today, I thought what I would share with you guys is how I made, and I'm sorry, this printed out like so obnoxiously big. Again, I don't know why it's so gigantic, and it, of course, has some lines on it, but I don't have this card any longer because I gave it to my niece, so I was going to share this with you guys. And then I also made a different style of a card. Now this one uses a different stamp set. It's not a Stampin' Up stamp set, so just ignore that part. But basically, I'm going to show you guys how to make this beach. So if you wanted to make the beach on the left and then the actual wave, because the ocean played a huge part in the movie Moana, if you haven't seen it. So I kind of thought you could do that for this as well with the ocean, but this one was more of a standard scene. And I actually, I did get this card idea from Michelle, and I've already forgotten what her last name was, but I did give her credit in the title tag of this video. And she made this card originally. Such an incredible card. So I did get the idea from her. So I definitely want to give her credit. And her name is in the video if you want to go see her video as well. She actually made a couple different ones. And she used the this little piggy stamp set. And she added in Pua, which is the pig from Moana. So she has another card with that. And, you know, if you guys still have the Hey Chick, you could certainly make one of the chicks into the chicken, which was Hey Hey. He was pretty hilarious if you've never seen that movie. It is really one of my all-time favorite movies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to make that today. But I also want to show you one other thing. So I'll have my little paper pumpkin thing. I'm going to show you. I just got this. This is the Heartfelt Blooms. I know a lot of you guys talked about this stamp set. This is the free stamp set you can get with Celebration. So this looks super detailed, right? It's beautiful. I cannot believe how detailed this stamp is. It is insane. It is insanely detailed. It is so gorgeous. Now, I've been trying to kind of figure out a way where you could make maybe some of the stamps or the images different colors. And so far, when I did it with a re-inker, it didn't really give the beautiful detail that it did when I did it with like markers. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to figure out another way to work on this. But you still can get this stamp set. This is free with a $50 purchase through Celebration. And it has these really beautiful scripts with it as well. So this is a free stamp set. And then I wanted to show you guys the idea. I did not participate in the last blog hop. I know. Wah, wah. I was a little disappointed in myself. This is the first blog hop I've missed in like 2 years, which is way more disappointing for me because that means I just failed my commitment to myself. But I had intended to use the Cozy Cottage stamp set, which is a Hostess stamp set. And you guys had seen me, I had colored this in last week and I trimmed it out, which is gorgeous. And I had like this whole little scene. I stamped the little Adirondack chairs and I added in the flowers, and then I had the gate, but I just could not make it work to make a card that I wanted. And I really worked hard on this card, but I couldn't make it into what I wanted it to. But this, if you guys can see, this was such a joy and relaxing to color. I did this with a mix of watercolor pencils and a little bit of the Stampin' blends, just to add like a little bit of something to it. And it really was a lot of fun. I just kind of fussy cut the tops of the flowers, and then I add a little bit of blue in for sky. And then I did the same with the gate. I kind of trimmed it to the edge and I went around the edge it was so fun to color, but I just cannot get this idea to come into my head the way I wanted to. What I wanted to have was to have the house, and then to have the little chairs and the garden in front of it, which I could have probably just done with those 2 layers and put it onto a card front, but then I couldn't leave out the gate. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I may have to just swap 2 of these out and just do it, but it was pretty fun. I just kind of trimmed them out, you know, to the sides just to kind of give an idea. But thank you guys for all the shares. I appreciate all the shares and all the love and the hearts and the thumbs up. It really does help me get seen, so thank you for that. But so that was this is what my card would have been, but I just ran out of ideas. So, and then my son recently fell in love with the party pandas. He made a great birthday card using the little panda, and he colored in all the balloons in different colors. But anyway, let me get all this stuff out of the way and I will show you guys. Let me make a new pile. I have a lot of piles here that need to be put away. Let's put it that way. That's putting it mildly. So what we're going to do today, we're going to make this background card. And you can do this a few different ways. You can do it with the sponge brayers. And if you haven't worked with these, you actually get 2 handles and then you get 2 extra replacement rollers. So you get 4 rollers. So you could have 4 colors and then the 2 handles. And they're very easy to use. They just pop off. And these do give you a completely different look than the old brayer. It's much softer. It's a much lighter color. I will say I really do miss the other brayer, and I still do use it quite a lot because that gives you an ability to blend a little bit more. These are a little bit softer, kind of like using a sponge. So you could also use sponges for this if you don't have the sponge brayers. And actually what I do with my sponges, these aren't going to match, but they come in a circle like this, and then what I do is I cut it in half and then cut it in half so you have 4 sponges, so it gives you more to use. You get 3 of them in a pack, and so you get 3 sponges in a pack, so you could make 12. And then you get 2 rollers with the 2 brayers with the 2 rollers, and then 2 extra rollers, so you get all this in one box. So it's a pretty good bargain for getting started if you kind of just wanted to try it out. But what we're going to start with is I'm actually going to do shimmer paper, which this is a little difficult to see on here, but it has like a shimmer to it. So it's very pretty when you color onto it. It kind of gives like a background shine. So this is available in the catalog. It's called shimmer paper, and it comes in a paper pack. It's in the, I think it's in the specialty section. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of masking. And what you need to do is, this is using the Beautiful You stamp set. And here is my girl that I used. I kind of trimmed her out, and you're going to make her into Moana, okay? And so you could either do her on a piece of Post-it note, which I'll show you how to do that. You could do it on a piece of Post-it note. If you have masking paper, Stampin' Up! Does not carry that, but masking paper is kind of like Post-it note, but it's sticky all over the back of it. But you could use this just as easily, or you could take some Tombow glue and you could let it dry, and then it'll become tacky so you can stick it down. But it's also just as easy to be able to stamp it and just kind of hold it in place as you roll over it. So we're going to use that. We're also going to use High Tide. And this is the other set of ladies that comes in the Beautiful You. But I'm going to tell you, I bought this just so I can make this Moana card. And then we also have Tickled Pink. I'm going to be using the palm fronds and probably these little wispies here. And then if you wanted to, you could add in some like water dots if you felt like it or something. If you want to make it more of an underwater card, you could use the Magical Mermaid. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started by first stamping Moana, kind of where we want her. And this is just something you're going to kind of eyeball, okay? So you can mask off the bottom of this if you don't want the water, because again, it kind of depends on what do you want it to look like. So you can just completely mask off the bottom water, that way it won't be there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp her in early espresso. That way it'll kind of give more of the tan tone to the skin. So if you guys have any questions, I do go back at the end and I will go back and answer all of the questions that are on here. And I'm going to mask this off just with some Post-it notes. And if you aren't already, you can subscribe to this on Facebook. You can follow me, I should say, on Facebook. And I'm going to just fill this in with the ink pad, and then I'll go back and fill in the foot part a little bit more before we stamp it. But you can follow me on here, on Pinterest, on YouTube. I also have a blog, Rachthestamper.com. And if you have any questions, you can always either send me a PM on here, you can leave me a comment, or you can shoot me an email directly at rachthestamper@gmail.com. So I'm just going to go ahead back in and just make sure that I got just the bit of her ankle here. That's just with the early espresso marker. And then you just have to figure out kind of where you want to plant her. So I'm going to put her up like just a slight bit. And we're going to let this dry. Okay, so she's not super dark, but she's dark enough. Okay, so that's really all we want. You can always make her darker if you wanted to. You could stamp it in black, but it'd kind of give a little bit of a harder edge to it. So again, it's just kind of what you want to do with it. Let me move this on the side. And then what I did was, once I stamped this, you're going to need to stamp this again and use it for your mask. And what I did was I kind of just held it in place while I went over it. So I saved this from last time, okay? So in the meantime, the other thing we're going to do just quickly is we're going to grab a piece of paper out of our wood textures. And again, this kind of just depends on what you want it to be. I'm just going to pick a little piece that I have laying here. And you're going to kind of make a boat. Now the boat is again going to be, you know, you could certainly pencil this out if you wanted to, but really you're going to kind of just do it freehand. So you have a piece that comes down, and it's only going to be a piece that goes like hanging off the edge. So you can kind of eyeball it. With your boat, you're going to have something that's a little bit harder of a triangle edge, and then just kind of straight across. Okay, so this will be your boat, and it's going to end up getting cut off a little bit, so that's not going to really be a huge deal. And then the only other thing you want to do is just make yourself a little piece for your mast to stick to. So we're going to kind of stick this. We'll have this here. We are going to trim this up, so we're going to need that. And then we're going to need one other slim sort of a piece to make her mast out of. Now this, I will say, you can kind of get a little bit more technical with if you want. So what you could do is you could take a piece of a Post-it note and just take a pencil and kind of make a triangle. Let's see, make sure that's bled. Kind of make a triangle, because you kind of want it to look a little bit more like a sail. It doesn't have to be anything specific. So if you trimmed this out, and then you could kind of trace it onto your white paper. And you don't have to do this. I just found that when I cut one out freehand, it just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So that's why I tended to do it this way. And so then you could take your Post-it and then just trace it. I'm going to bring it over to the edge here a little bit. Just kind of so you have like a little bit of an idea of what you want it to look like. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then just take your white piece. This is something that I was scribbling on the other day. So it's just a little piece of scrap. And then trim on the edge. And this also is kind of a card that you can have a little bit of trial and error with, because if you don't really like the way it looks, you can always, you know, you could redo your mast. You could make your sail bigger or smaller. And so let's see. So we'll kind of figure for that. Yeah, I think I'm going to go this way. Oh, hold on. See, so the angle of it is going to kind of depend on how your mast is going to go. So if we did it, we'll do it a little bit more like this. a little bit kind of cockeyed, but you can make it however you want. So you can trim the end off if you like it. Whatever it is that you want to do with it. So I'm going to just erase a little bit of this. I would say, honestly, of the whole card, I think the hardest part for me was getting the sail to look realistic enough. And meanwhile, I'm giving this to a 5-year-old, so I'm sure she probably didn't really analyze what the sail looked like. Although, I should say that knowing kids, some kids are very detailed into what the movie is that they're watching, so they might have known what it looked like. All right, so we're going to put our mast and our boat on the side and our sail as well, so we can work on this. So in the meantime, so we have our little Moana here that is masked out. Doesn't really look like anything yet. And the other thing you want to do is we're going to make kind of a mound of this mountain in the background. Okay, so when you make this mountain in the background, what you're doing is you're kind of masking it with the Post-it note. So I kind of just ripped it to make like what you would think an island would look like back here. And we're going to make this just a little bit softer on the edge. And we're going to put this kind of here. So let me see if that's a little bit. I'm going to move it over just a smidge. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do our sky. Okay. And in the meantime, I'm also going to take, this requires a lot of Post-its. I should have told you that. So I'm also going to take and put a Post-it here just to kind of make a horizon line. Just like that. And then we will put another one over here once we're finished. So I'm just going to set that on the side for now. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with soft sky. So I'm going to take soft sky. You could use the waterfront mountain. That is a really good idea, Donna. Absolutely, you could. This one just ends up being that it's a little bit softer. So that if you did it, you could do it with like a crumb cake. I wouldn't do it with something dark. Do it with a crumb cake, and then you can kind of add over it if you wanted to. So I'm going to start by just sponging in a little bit of soft sky. And what you can do is you can kind of blend it a little bit, because what it'll do, even though you're not really making it this way, is it'll kind of give the illusion like there's a little bit of clouds, believe it or not. Just if you kind of dot your sponge on and then do like a little bit of a swirl swish. That's a technical term, by the way, just in case you didn't know. So I'm going to just set the soft sky on the side, because we may use that again. I'm going to add just a teeny bit of Pool Party. Just more down here at the horizon line. Just so it's a little bit darker. Okay, so then now you have your kind of outline here of where your mountain island is going to be. So I'm going to take my horizon line, okay, and I'm going to put that over here. And then this is the rest of the Post-it that I ripped out from the mountain. And I'm going to just set this here. Just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's not going to stay because there's not really very much sticky. So I'm going to hold both of these down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of everyone I think's least favorite color, which I really like it a lot, but this is Always Artichoke. So I'm going to again take my sponge, and I'm going to just go in lightly with Always Artichoke. Just line this up. And I'm just going to, again, just pounce, because I don't want it super dark, but maybe a little bit darker at the top, if that makes sense. Okay. And we can go back and fill that in, because it's not going to match exactly, which is no big deal. So I'm going to take the artichoke, put that away, and I'm going to add in a little bit of, it's going to go with Old Olive. I'm going to go with Pear Pizzazz. So again, I'm just going to take my same sponge and just grab a little bit of Pear Pizzazz. And what it kind of does is it gives like a depth. Even though this doesn't look like much right now, a depth of that kind of to the island. Okay, so then I'm going to take my, I still have my Pool Party sponge, and I'm going to add just a little bit around the edge of that. And I'm going to just do it without the mask, so just kind of blend the two together. Okay. So again, that so far was Pool Party and Always Artichoke were for the mountain. And then I used Soft Sky to start. And then a little bit of Pool Party. I'm sorry. Pear Pizzazz, Always Artichoke, Soft Sky, Pool Party. Just want to make sure I said that right. So now you have your lines. So you do need to be mindful of your lines. Okay. Because when you pull these off, you want to make sure that everything matches up for the most part. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take and flip your Post-its over to cover your line. However, I made the mistake the first time that I put them over and then I ended up with like a white line. So if you move them up like just a hair so you can see the color below, that way you won't get that hard line, because you're just going to have to go back in and kind of fix it afterwards. So again, now we're going to take this. So now we're blocking off our sky, and now we're going to do our beach, and we're going to do the water. So we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to just take a little bit of the Post-it. So I have the Post-it on the top here. So I'm going to take just a little bit off to kind of make my like soft beach area. And this again just depends. You could do this with a paper if you wanted to instead, and then just hold it in place. Just depends on what you want it to look like. I kind of just use this one over a few times. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here. And then I'm going to make one more. And this one I'm going to have a little bit more of a rounded rip to it. If I can get it to go. Is that more than one? More than one Post-it, that's why. And I'm going to stick this around here on the side. So it gives her, what you want is you want to give her like a beach to stand on, if this makes sense. Okay. And then we're going to kind of mask over the edges with the palm frond. So if you don't get it exact, don't be nervous. It's not that big of a deal. We can always cover up. So anything that you feel like you're like, well, I'm already going to ruin this. You're not going to, because you can cover it. You can cover it with palm fronds. You can cover it with, sponging just of the edges. So don't be too critical on it. So again, I'm going to start with the pool party just to kind of make the water. So just to give the water a feel. Let me make sure that I have the, nope, that's green. That would have been a disaster. There's pool party. All right, so I'm going to start with pool party. I'm just going to lightly go over the water. And again, just make sure that you get all the way up to that edge. And this one you can kind of start out lighter until you realize what you want to do. And the other thing is what I would do, now that I've done this, I should have made two. Sometimes I'll make two of one card, but I should have made two at the same time. That way, if you don't, you could kind of do them similarly, but that way if you don't like something by the time you're finished, you can kind of change it. So we're going to close up the pool party. And now I'm going to grab, which one did I use? I'm going to grab my Bermuda Bay. Okay, so we're going to take Bermuda Bay and we're going to use the water. Okay, this is from High Tide. I love this stamp set. If you don't have this stamp set is worth it for the seagulls or pipers, whatever you want to call them, the flying seagulls and the water and the beach grass. I used my friend's stamp for the longest time before I finally broke down and bought one. And I'm like, I don't even know why I waited so long, because it was such a great stamp set. It has beautiful sentiments in it as well. Okay, so we're going to ink that up. That's Bermuda Bay, and we're just going to stamp just some water. And again, just be mindful because this isn't really all the way hooked down. You can do it a few times. You can kind of turn it around. That way all your water isn't facing the same direction. And what it's going to do is it's going to mask her with the water kind of all around her. I'm going to just change colors. So that was Bermuda Bay. I'm going to add in a little bit of Island Indigo. But what you're doing is you're masking her. So we are going to go in and refill it. It's just going to be with a different color, and it's going to make the water look like it's all around her with the different colors. So again, now I'm just going to do the same thing and just lightly just go across. Just making sure I try to hold this in place. Just kind of gives that different depth of color with all the different colors. All right, so that was Island Indigo. I'm going to set this one on the side for a minute. And then, what else did we have over here? This one's even a really good one here. The Fabulous Flamingo, the little water swirl in here. I'm going to add that kind of more under her. So let me just clean this. Use this block again because it's an easy one. And I'm going to put this more so at her feet. So I'm going to do that one in Tempting Turquoise. And again, if you don't have both of these, you could just use one or the other. You don't have to use them all. Just again, a little bit more of a color. scheme to it. Okay, so we had that base down so we could kind of cover it up. That way, after the fact, you don't have to go in and redo the pool party because then it would mute your colors a little bit. All right, so now while I have this out, I'm going to go ahead and mount the palm frond and the little beach grass, okay? Because we can add these in wherever we don't like what something looks like. And I did like adding the palm fronds in because it really hid, like if you had anything that you were like, oh, that didn't turn out well. So I'm going to take this part off. And as you can see, even though I tried, I still kind of have that little line there. Okay, now it's more of a line of where the water stuff went up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my pool party sponge and just kind of, oops, I bent her foot, just kind of smudge the edge there. So you can see it went, just with that little bit of sponging, it went from this hard white line to a much softer line. Okay, so I'm just holding her in place with my finger and just kind of smudging away from her. That way I know it's not going to go underneath so much. And it is going to have that way kind of up to the body, but we can fix that afterwards as well. All right, so now we have that. And then the only other thing we have to do at this point, so I'm going to move her off to the side so you can see. The only other thing we have to do at this point is now the sand. So I would definitely suggest start with crumb cake, because if you start with Sahara sand, to me is a lot more of a green brown than a sand color. So I usually will start with crumb cake. And if you wanted to, you know, you could do your brayer. Just remember with your brayers, if you're using this with the foam pads, it will rip. This thing could rip it, so just don't press super duper hard. This one is an older linen pad, so I'm pushing a little bit harder. So I'm going to just kind of roll this across the bottom just to kind of add in the sand, because you know there is sand under the ocean. So if it goes underneath a little bit, it's okay. And I'm also not being terrifically careful around her foot because she is going to get colored in a little bit more of a tan color. So that was Sahara sand. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little bit of So Saffron to kind of give it a little bit more of a yellow tint. But the other thing you could do as well is you could do a little bit of powder pink. If you wanted more of like a pinkish sand, would be really pretty. Kind of like more like a Bermuda sand. Just depending on what you want it to be. So that's good enough. I don't want to overdo it too much. And let me think what else. So you have your sand. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna add my I'm gonna take my crumb cake and I'm gonna just put like a little bit around her foot. Just so it's kind of got like that indent of like her actually standing in the sand. Okay. I just did just like a teeny bit, just kind of more for like the shadow of how the beach is. So I have a little bit there, and let me see what else. All right, I think that's pretty good for now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my palm fronds, okay? And I'm going to do these in Garden Green and Lemon Lime Twist, okay? So I'm going to do, let me move a few of these out of the way. I'm going to do the Garden Green first, and then we can always add in the Lemon Lime Twist. And I know that someone had also asked, I believe probably several someones had also asked about me doing a no-line watercolor, and I just got watercolor, so I will definitely do that very, very soon. I'm going to actually change. Garden Green wasn't dark enough. I'm going to use Tranquil Tide instead. So Tranquil Tide and Lemon Lime Twist. But I did a little bit of research, and I apologize, I don't remember who asked me about that. And I have been looking into the no-line watercoloring. There, that's so much darker. I'll just put a couple. And this can kind of be like as if you're looking through the beach and you see her out at the ocean. So you're kind of peeking out behind the trees is what I was going for. And then we'll put a few more of these. I'm going to add in some lemon lime ones as well. So even with the Garden Green in there, it kind of gives you that different depth of color. So now let me put this one on the side. But I did I did a little research on that no-line watercoloring. And because at first, I wasn't quite sure if that was like watercoloring from scratch, which I'm not very artistically talented if you ask me my own opinion. But I saw quite a lot of videos on that. So that's really, looks like a fun thing to do. So this is just some lemon lime twist. Add it in. Okay. Put this away, and then I'm going to grab, before I put this away a little too soon, I'm going to grab my Tranquil Tide, and I'm going to just put a few of these beach grasses in. Just so it kind of gives like, and it doesn't really matter where they are because they kind of are all blending together. So if you stamp them over or underneath, they kind of all blend. So it doesn't really matter what order you put them in. All right. So I think that's good for now. Okay. So now what we have to do, move these out of the way in case I have to use them again, in case we have to fix anything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of working on Moana. Okay. So we have Calypso Coral is one of the colors we're going to use. Calypso Coral. We're going to also use Soft Suede. We're going to use Early Espresso. We can use a little teeny bit of powder pink, and then we're going to need black. So this is going to just basically be for her hair. So what you're going to do is, it's kind of up to you how you want to do this. You could do these with the Stampin' Blends if you wanted to, but you do want to make sure that you start out with a thicker paper. Okay? Not artistic. Yeah, but this is a card that someone else created. I just kind of made my own version. But thanks, Ginger. I'll take that compliment where I can get it. So what Michelle did was, so this lady's wearing a dress, as y'all can see. So she's wearing like a full dress. So what she did is she decided that this line right here was going to be the end of Moana's shirt because her belly kind of shows through her shirt. And this was going to be her belly. And then we're going to go to skirt. So we kind of did the same thing, okay? And that's 11, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make this kind of into her little sash and whatnot. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So what I did is I'm going to trace what I want as her dress and her skirt and her sash, and then I'll bring it back up to show you guys, okay? So we're going to kind of just trace this, oops, with the brush tip marker. So we're going to go here, just like that. And remember with this, like her hair's in the way, her hair is going to end up covering this eventually anyway. Okay, so that's going to be her shirt. And then this part down here is going to be her sash. And then you kind of have to draw in a little bit of a sash here, okay? Because this one's not really as dark. And I gotta say, I gotta give all props to Michelle for even thinking she could make Moana out of this because it really is incredible. So this is going to be the sash portion. I mean the shirt, and then the sash, and then the skirt. So this is going to be your skin. So I'm going to go ahead and color this in. I'm going to do this with a little bit of crumb cake first, just to kind of give like that tan. So give a little bit of a break. You don't want to put too much though. And honestly, this one might be a good time to bring out your blender pen. So you could bring out your blender pen and hit the tip of your marker with it or your ink pad. And then you're just going to fill in her skin. And again, you can make her as dark or light as you wanted to. As you can see, when I did my masking here, it was a little bit off underneath. So I'm going to go back in and fill that in after the fact. And then you can kind of take your actual brush tip and you can go in and add in like a little bit of shading. So that's kind of why I like to use the blender pens to start, and then you can go in with your marker and add in your extra shading. So let me just grab her leg. And if you remember when, I don't know if you guys have or haven't seen the movie. I know if you're a mom on here, you probably have. And she's kicking the ocean because she was so mad at it. So it kind of works out as a cool twist the way this kicking motion ends up being. All right, so we're going to cap this off for a moment, but we're going to use that again. And you can also do the same thing with your blender pen if you haven't misplaced your cap. I rolled off of here somewhere. That's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fill in the rest of her sash. Okay, so I have, again, my blender or my marker tip for my Calypso Coral. I'm going to clean off my blender pen, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to just take some ink off the tip, fill it in so it's a little bit lighter. So kind of more so outlines her clothes, and then we're going to add to it. All right, and here's her little sash part that we added in. You can go ahead and, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and retrace that in. I'm going to just go just a little bit around the edge, just to give it a little bit more depth. Okay, so that was, again, Calypso Coral. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of tracing work. So I have my Early Espresso marker. Okay, and what we're trying to do here is she has like a little bit of stitching on her skirt. So you're going to kind of make like a little bit of a hand-drawn line up, and I just kind of followed it in crosses or X's or whatever it is you want to say. And just draw this little hand-drawn line because she has kind of like this nice stitching on her dress there. And then you're going to add a little bit of a fringe at the bottom. So you can kind of just add like little lines underneath to follow the edge of it. Which is kind of, it sounds like it's a little bit much, but honestly, when you really look at the card, when it's all put together, it looks pretty cool. Okay, so now for the hair, essentially what we're doing with this black marker is we're just filling in the hair from her hat. So her hat is now going to become part of her hair. So you could do one of two things to make it a little darker. Take your smoky slate marker and just kind of lightly fill in the hat. That way you don't really have as many white spots, and then you could take your blender pen and kind of blend it in. And you could do this with a combination of colors. So you could do this kind of with either soft suede or early espresso and black, but I find that if you do it with more than one, it definitely gives it more of a depth of feel. So I'm going to add in just a few of these at first, and now this is the part where you're going to think, oh my gosh, I just ruined this card. But really you're not. You're just making some hair. And you can make her hair was pretty long. So that's my early espresso. That's just kind of the trace. And now I'm going to go with the black. So again, you're just going to add in some. Now if you have a little bit of white showing through, it's actually no big deal because it kind of gives that essence of something behind it. And it makes it look a little bit more like hair. We're going to make this just a little bit rounder. So it kind of looks like she's looking to the sky. So there you go. So it's not perfect, but definitely pretty cool. You can add in as much as you want. If you wanted to make it a little bit lighter, you certainly could do that as well. Okay, so now I just want to make sure I'm looking like for the final touches here because I feel like I didn't get her skin as dark as I wanted to because I missed a little bit here where this was masked. She definitely has a absolutely gorgeous complexion and color skin. Okay, so then I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go in with my soft sky. So just the brush tip of this, and I'm going to kind of go around the edge here and just make sure that I got any spots where like the water should be showing through, or like up here where the sky is and her arm is and it's kind of a white spot. I kind of added around with that a little bit. You can add a little bit in where the water's edge is. Like that. If you wanted to, you could also take your, you still have a white gel pen, and you could kind of make your, like your water edge here, like where the foam comes up to the beach. So you can start out by kind of tracing your water line, and then you could just add a little bit more water to it or white to it, which will kind of make it look a little bit more like foam up on the beach. You could also do this if you wanted to with your craft white ink pad. The only thing is you definitely have to make sure. I do have a blender pen that I specifically have for craft white ink. So this is another really great idea. You take your ink pad. I have two because I realized I couldn't find one and then I made another. But once you use this with white or with black, you don't want to use it with any other. So definitely make sure you make a notation. But you could take your craft white ink pad and you kind of just wet it up. So it makes this white. The only thing is I'm not going to do a whole lot. You have to bear in mind you got to have a lot of drying time with this. And then you could just add your white in. Just like that. And it makes a really soft edge. So you have like that water's edge look, okay? But again, you're going to want to let that dry if that's the case, okay? So now what we're going to do, we forgot, I got to add this buddy back in here. We're going to add in our boat and our mast. So this is going to take a little bit of finagling. So you're going to have to figure out where do you want your boat. It's only going to be partially on the screen. The trees are kind of in front of it, so I kind of goofed that part up a little bit. So don't put your trees on there yet. Because otherwise it's going to be like, how the heck did that boat get in there through the trees? So I'm not going to actually add this boat, but I'm going to show you how to make it because I didn't make my water go out quite far enough as I did, again, like on this first one. I had the water out here farther, so the boat was kind of in the side screen. So I'm going to show you how to make the boat, but I'm not going to put it on this one. So what you're going to do is, and I can't remember another lady, I have so many of you that I wish I could remember all of your names, like I could remember the Stampin' Up! Colors, and I apologize that I can't. But I have one lady that all the time when I made these cards, and they would have these little magical circles on them. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's kind of looks like a little, like a nautilus or something, but it's called a koru. So these, she finds these in all kinds of things, which are very random, but they are, It's just like a little circle. They're just these little circles that are in a lot of things. And if you're on here, give me a shout out if you're on here watching. But whenever I make a card, she magically finds these little things that I didn't even know I was looking for or even putting on the card. But they're really cool. So what you want to do is you want to put this onto the boat. So again, just do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you just kind of leave it open. All right, so just like that. You can take your sponge if you wanted to, and you could put a little bit of crumb cake on your sail with a sponge. That way your sail kind of looks authentic. Because most canvas sails aren't crispy white. Well, not that I had that much boat experience, but I'm going to bet that they're not. So you have your little sail there, and then what you're going to do is you're going to figure out where you want it to be. You put it like that, and then you can put your mast on here. Okay, so you can put this on with mini glue dots if you wanted to, but I tend to like to put it on with liquid glue because it's a little bit more repositionable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit onto the bottom here, and it doesn't have to be a lot, just a teeny bit. And I'm going to kind of find a spot where I want to add my boat. And this is the nice part because it does leave it kind of repositionable. You can move this around for a good amount of time. And I'm going to slip this into the front and just kind of bring this up a little bit more. And then what I'll do is eventually, once this dries, I'll do the same thing with the top. So I'll just put a teeny bit of liquid glue right here on the very edge of my sail. Just like whatever's left. You don't even really have to squeeze. And then, got a little bit on there. And then you're going to attach these together. Kind of just by holding. It really only takes, only takes a minute or so. Unless you're pulling while you're holding. Alright. And then what you're going to do, if you do your scene correctly where you still have water here, is you're going to put your boat on. So say like that, you put your boat on, and then you're going, excuse me, you're going to just, goodness, I got to move this over a little bit because my mast is not on there. You're going to just trim the edge of this. That way you'll trim your boat right off from the back. Okay, so I'm going to pull this off just since I didn't do that one exactly correctly. But you have your boat. Now, another thing you could do is if you wanted to have more of a boat, you could put your boat on this side. You could make this more of a water scene with a really small amount of a beach. But again, it's going to be different every single time. Okay, so that's going to be your base card. So what I'm going to do is or your layer card. What we're going to do is we're going to cut up a piece of, really looks pretty on Calypso Coral. So I'm going to just do a Calypso Coral base. And we'll put a little piece of the wood background on there. The background paper, because it really made it look pretty neat. Just that little extra piece there. So let's see. We have here. That one's a little bit cut. Let me grab one more piece. So when I did these, I've made a lot of cards with these wood pieces. So you have a lot of different colors. There's a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of different tones. So I kind of just picked one that was like a little bit darker, and I'm going to just shave off just a little piece. So I'll say maybe like, inch and a half is good enough. Inch and a half. And then we're going to make this we'll make it the whole length of it. So 4 1/4. So it'll be the whole thing will be behind this piece. So we'll mount this one here. And then we're just going to add our thing to it. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you guys, if you wanted to make the wave layer so it actually looks like the wave, I wanted to show you just how to do that kind of with a brayer. So we'll just put this right here on the end. And let's see, I'm wondering, yep, I was going to say, I wasn't sure if I trimmed this piece down or not, but there you go. And then you could make this into whatever you wanted to. The other thing you could do, you could add some of the palms, or I don't know if they're called palms. I think they're called pine bows, but I sometimes call them interchangeably palms. You could add those from the, oh goodness, I just had it out. What is it called? The Peaceful Pines stamp set. It's actually the Christmas stamp set. So if you wanted to make this, give like even a little bit more depth to it, it does have a die set that goes with it. So you could cut a couple of those out And then you could kind of layer them onto the front here with like the mini dimensionals. So it would really make it look like it was a 3D card. So that would be really, really, really cool. But again, it doesn't translate very well, but this looks really pretty because it has that slight shimmer from the shimmer paper. So if you see this in person, it would be much more beautiful. And again, if I would have left my water here, but you know, that's me. Every time I make a card, I feel like I never, ever can make them exactly the same, even though sometimes that's the goal that I shoot for. And then you have your little boat here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one more thing we could do with the ocean. And actually, we could use our boat for that since I made this different style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of shimmer white. Grab another piece. Oop, that's not even a full sheet. And I'm going to trim this down. So the shimmer white does come in an 8.5 by 11. And it really does have a super pretty shine to it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 4. By 5 1/4. And then what I did with this one is I kind of did it the opposite. So it was the opposite side. So instead, the beach is over here and then the water's on this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this instead is I'm going to actually, I find a scrap paper here. I'm going to actually make a kind of a mask just out of a piece of scrap paper for the beach. Okay, so I'm going to bring this around. So it'll come around like that, and then we'll make this down to the bottom. So what we're going to do for this is going to kind of be our beach. I am going to have a little bit here up at the top, so I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to start with Pool Party. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with Soft Sky up at the top, and then we'll move down to Pool Party. Okay, so this will be Soft Sky up here at the top. Just again, lightly. Because we do want a little bit of the horizon. And then I'm going to just blend this out just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring this over just a little bit for the water. Okay, so that's good. And then I'm going to add in, whoops, a little bit of Pool Party. And other thing I want to do is I want to show you guys something real quick. So when you're, same thing with your brayer. So this one was the one we used the other one for. So I'm going to grab this one. So when you have your brayer, if you want to brayer something, you need to roll these brayers because they don't ink up as deeply as the other one did. So you may have to use more than one. Okay, so you're going to roll it, really roll it with ink. However, again, this is a foam pad, so I'm not pushing as hard because I don't want to tear my ink pad. And then I'm going to just go across the top because I want to try to add in a little bit more of a horizon line. And if you can't do that with this, the other thing that you can do is you can kind of take your coordinating marker. So this is just my Pool Party marker. And I'm going to just kind of make a line. And it doesn't need to be necessarily a hard line, just kind of an idea of a line. So I'll just trace just a little bit. Just a little bit of a line, and then the rest of it is going to be behind this, so we're not going to worry about that. So it's not really a straight line, not really a hard line like you would imagine with a normal sky, but just like if you could see here. So you have this line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bottom part a little bit darker, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to add in another color. I'm going to add in a little bit of Marina Mist, because I want it to have a feel that that's lighter since it's the sky and this is darker. Now, since this is a darker color with the sponge, I'm just using the same sponge. So I'm going to just add in a little bit more dark for the ocean. And then just blending the two together. And when you do that with a piece of paper you don't have glued down, you just want to blend it out. That way you don't get underneath as much. And then I'm going to go up here to the line just a little bit. Okay, so now what you're going to do, close that up, is you're going to do the same thing again. This time what we'll do is we'll do a crumb cake and a powder pink, beach, okay? So we'll make the beach a little bit different of a color. So this is powder pink. This is one of the in colors in crumb cake. Since this one is lighter, I'm going to start with this one, and then we'll have the crumb cake be like the highlighted sand portion. So I'm going to take a sponge again, and I'm going to just go over it just lightly. I don't want it to be too dark. And then just blend, and then I'm going to add in some, this is almost a little too pink. Might want to have to go with the pink pirouette. We're going to add in a little crumb cake though. See if we can even it out. You know, it's funny with making these cards. I could make this card 800 times, but as soon as you turn on the camera, nothing ever turns out exactly the way you want it. But we're going to make it work. All right, so now what I would do with this, and I'm going to grab my blender pen again, just because I want to add in a little bit of color to the edge. So with your blender pens, you just want to wipe them when you change colors until they turn clear, okay? So I'm going to do a little squeeze and get a little pool of ink down here. So I'm just going to grab this with my blender pen and just kind of bring the edge, just so there's like a little bit of an edge to the ocean and the sand. And you can go over a little bit. It's not really going to hurt anything. Now the difference would be if you're going to do this one. So this is a little excessive in my sand area. If you're going to do this one, you're going to want to have your already masked out your Moana if you wanted her to be over here. Or the other thing you could do if you wanted to stamp her so she was facing the opposite way is you could use your silicone mat and you would stamp her onto this and then put it, that way her foot will be kicking the ocean the other direction. You'll just push this down, it transfers the ink onto here, and then you would just have to cut your mask out and put your mask backwards if that's what you wanted to do, okay, which would be relatively simple to do. But again, you can go ahead and add your Tranquil Tide, add your palms over here, so you can even hide if this is a little too high with the ocean over here. You don't want it to be quite, or the beach, you don't want it to be quite up so high. You could hide that. So Tranquil Tide, and then the lemon lime twist really goes nicely together with that. You could add a little bit of beach grass if you wanted to, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a depth of feel. I think I still have that one out. Right here. We'll do this one in garden green. So you could add some beach grass. So it kind of gives you like a feel for exactly how the card is, if that makes sense. A feel for where you are on the earth standing, that you're not floating in this crazy space with your beach going up so high. Okay, so then what you could do is you could add your boat in. Now you could actually add in more of your boat if you added it from this direction. You could add your boat in. And again, if you wanted to put, we'll just say she's going to be on here like she's kicking the ship away. She would be mirror stamped on here. That way I will put her on the opposite direction. But then the other thing that I did with this was I added in the ocean. Now the ocean in Moana is like its own character because it helps her sometimes, and then sometimes it gets on her nerves. It crashed her on an island she didn't want to be on. So if you're going to do that, what I started out with doing again was I will use the pool party. So I'm going to actually just use the pool party, oh, that's soft sky. I'm going to use the pool party marker to kind of trace the outline of the ocean. And again, the ocean was kind of like this little thing here. Just this wave that came up, okay? So the wave that came up is kind of like, you're going to trace it with this, that way you can add it, because it had a little soft roundness to it, okay? And then what you could do is you could do it with a little bit different. So you could take the finer tip of your Bermuda Bay and kind of add this in. So you have like your outline of your ocean, because he wasn't super pointy. He wasn't like a really pointy wave. He was very soft, and it actually took the Disney animators quite a lot of time to make him so he would look very realistic, which is pretty neat. If you've never seen the video, a friend of mine shared it with me about how much research they put in. That was Soft Sky, and this is Pool Party again. How much research they put into him before they actually made him, which is pretty neat. And then you could put your little bit of water rushing here like the boat was coming up to shore. So just add him in. Just a little bit of color. Kind of a little bit more shading on the one side. He has a little bit more of a real wave look to him. And then the same thing again. So you could either use your white gel pen if you still have one and kind of make a little bit of a curl on his crest here. And a little bit of like a seafoam fluff. Oh, this one doesn't want to work. A little bit of a seafoam fluff down here at the bottom. Or you could do the same thing again and you could pull out your white, which these do stay pretty wet for a while. You could pull out your white and kind of give him the foam. And we'll do the same thing with this. Like he's created a little wave that's washing up. A little bit here on the back. But something fun. I mean, this is definitely neat just to be able to do the wave. And then again, depending on how it is that you want to do the boat, you could make your boat many different ways. And then if you wanted to make yourself a Moana that was going the other direction, or other thing you could do is you could do this little piggy, and you could make your little Pua pig. So maybe I can cut him out later on today and make the little Pua pig, and he could be sitting on the beach because he was waiting for her when he came back. He's the one that didn't make it into the boat. So a couple different ideas for you guys. And then next week I will definitely try to get onto that no-line watercoloring. And hopefully have a great example or something to share with you. If you all have a specific stamp that you would like to see made with the no-line watercoloring, feel free to let me know. What you're doing when you do it with that, for example, the flamingo would be a good one. You just would have to stamp it in the outline. This would actually be a great one to do it with because we could do a water scene on the bottom. Since everybody's thinking of spring and probably half people are taking their trip to Florida right now to pretend like it's spring, you could do the water on the bottom and then we could stamp the flamingo. And what you're doing is you're going to just stamp him in a really light color. So for example, I'd say crumb cake over soft suede or Sahara sand, because Sahara sand, although it looks like a darker color or a lighter color, ends up having a more of a blue dark undertone to it, so it never ends up disappearing as much. So what we could do is we could stamp the fabulous flamingo in crumb cake and then watercolor him out, which would be really, really pretty. And you could do that completely with your inks. So we could do that. I could do maybe one with watercolors and then do one with Stampin', I guess with the Stampin' Up pads, because we really don't need the refills. We could just use the ink pads. So all you're going to do when we do the ink pads is just squeeze them, get your pool of color, and then color with it. So we could do that definitely next week. And I know I completely forgot to draw a person for last week's drawing. So when I draw tomorrow, I will draw two names. I'm going to draw a comment from last week, and I'm going to draw one from this week, and I will send you guys out a prize. I have, like I said, some glimmer paper. I have some beautiful retired ribbon. I have some sequins. Lots of fun stuff to give away. I do appreciate you guys joining very much. I really, really do. And if you would like any info on becoming a member of my team, Team Stamp It, all you have to do is send me an email, rachthestamper@gmail.com. Right now, we are still running the celebration special, so you get to pick $125 worth of any Stampin' Up product. You can get anything you want for just $99 and free shipping. Plus, you get 2 additional bonus stamp sets, so you can pick any stamp set you want. So, like, for example, this beautiful this is a two-pack stamp set. So you could get this for free. And I mean, theoretically, you could get probably about an extra $60 in free stuff depending on what stamp set you picked. So, because you could pick more expensive ones for your free stamp sets. The only thing is you can't pick anything out of Celebration and you can't pick a bundle. But there's lots of great stuff in there. If you all need a catalog, if anyone needs one, all you have to do is send me an email with your full mailing address. Be sure to include your zip code, and I would be happy to send you one right out. You can also sign up for my newsletter by sending me your email to rachthestamper@gmail.com. I appreciate all you guys joining. Thank you so much. Oh, your Stamparatus is ready to be shipped. Oh, Cheryl, I'm so jealous. I'm hoping that mine comes. It was supposed to be, I think, on order today, but I think now it's tomorrow, so I might have to get off here and check my email. But I tell you what, if I get my Stamparatus, I will do a Stampin' Live as soon as I get it, because I think I'm going to get expedited shipping, because I'm so excited. I've been waiting for so long to get it. So I'm like happy fingers, so excited to get my Stamparatus. I cannot wait. Oh, you're getting yours tomorrow, Donna? Oh, you are so lucky. I am so excited. Yeah, so anyway, thank you guys as always for joining and watching and commenting and sharing and spreading the love. I really appreciate it. I hope wherever you are, you have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys, if not sooner. If I get my Stamparatus, I'll be back live for sure. But if I don't see you then, I will see you Wednesday for sure, and we'll do some no-line watercoloring. So thanks y'all for joining. I'll post all these later on once I get back inside on my blog with all the finished pictures. Hope you guys have a great day.